Bante, good evening. I got a question here. When we learn about metta meditation, we were first taught to to go to the state of one-pointedness. Thereon, we go to concentrate on the breathing through the nose. In out, we concentrate on the breathing out. Then from there, we were told to go down to Vipassana, the rising and falling. So can you please explain a little bit on that?
Explain what?
Whether this is the correct methods of meditation or not. From metta to anapanasati, the concentration on the breathing, then to Vipassana.
As I mentioned just now, the aim of meditation should be to attain the jhanas. If you practice and you are not aiming for jhanas, that means you are not aiming to lift off the ground, so you can never go towards nibbana. It's all right to practice any way you want, but if you are aiming for nibbana, then you must lift off from the six senses. You must go away from your six senses. But since six senses must not be working.
Then in other words, how do we go, that means if you want to go to the state of jhana, so what are the proper ways to go to the state of jhana?
Okay. Actually, jhana and satipatthana is connected. But nowadays, people say that jhana is one meditation, satipatthana is different. It is vipassana meditation. It's totally not in accordance with the suttas. In the Satipatthana Sutta, the Buddha explained how to practice Satipatthana. Satipatthana, to me, should be translated as an intense state of recollection. Today I brought some books about meditation, which explains about mindfulness, recollection and concentration. In other words, sampajanya, sati and samadhi. So coming back to Satipatthana, the Buddha said, to understand how to practice Satipatthana, the Buddha gave a simile or a parable. The Buddha said, suppose the most beautiful girl of the country came out, and then all the men saw and they clapped their hands and shouted, the most beautiful girl of the country. And then more people came out when they heard that. And then they clapped and they shouted and they asked this beautiful girl to sing and dance. So this beautiful girl started to sing and dance, and more people came out to see. Then the Buddha said, an ordinary man came along, one who wanted to live, not to die, one who wanted happiness, not suffering. Then the Buddha said the soldiers caught him and made him carry a bowl of oil filled to the brim with oil, filled to the top with oil. And the soldier walked behind him with an upraised sword and told him, you better be careful. If you spill even one drop of the oil, I'll chop off your head. So he has to carry the oil and walk very slowly, and he has to look at the oil. Does he dare to look at the pretty girl there? Dare not, isn't it? Does he dare to look left or look right? Dare not, isn't it? Because his life depends on this bowl. So he has to carry the bowl with all his attention on the bowl and nowhere else. He just keeps walking, looking at the bowl, paying attention to nothing else. And that is the way to practice Satipatthana, according to the Buddha. That is why in another sutta, in the Satipatthana Sangyutta, the Buddha said, a skillful monk, one who practices Satipatthana in the right way, eventually he will attain jhana, one-pointedness of mind. But if another monk has no kung fu, has no skill, he practices Satipatthana, he can never attain one-pointedness of mind, cannot attain jhana. So like this guy is carrying the bowl, he's looking at the pretty girl and looking left and looking right. He's not practicing Satipatthana correctly, so he cannot get one-pointedness of mind. So that is a way to practice meditation. Whatever you are contemplating on, for example, if you are contemplating on your breath, you just pay attention to your breath. Any sound comes, you just ignore it. Any sensation comes, you ignore it. Any thought comes, you just ignore it. You just focus on your breath all the time until your mind becomes one-pointed. So the breath is just one of the methods. Another one that the Buddha used to teach his disciples was like meditating on a flame, say like a candle flame. Light a candle flame. You open your eyes, look at the flame and close your eyes. Try to imagine the flame. And then open your eyes again and then close your eyes. Try to imagine the flame. You keep looking until one day, even when your eyes close, you can see the flame. And then you keep looking at that flame and then slowly it changes. And then you concentrate on it. Then you enter jhana. Those monks who practice this meditation on the flame, then they can bring up the flame of the fire when they are in samadhi. So some of them, when they pass away, they conjure up the flame and the flame will just burn their whole body, burn their body to ashes. Then they enter nibbana. That is kung fu, real kung fu.
Bande, just how you mentioned about the world exists because of our consciousness.
Yes.
And we reach the state of nibbana because of our cessation of consciousness.
Yeah.
I have two questions. Question number one is that, does Buddhism touch about unconsciousness and subconsciousness as well, other than consciousness?
The Buddha did not talk in that way. The Buddha did not talk in that way, but the Buddha talk about tendencies that we have, latent tendencies. You might say this is the subconsciousness or libido and all that. So the Buddha talk in different terms. So unconsciousness depends on what you mean by unconsciousness. Real unconsciousness is that Nirodha Samapatti I mentioned, total unconsciousness. Okay?
In the terminology of the subconsciousness, when we reach this state of nibbana, what happened to that?
This one is difficult to explain because it's something beyond words, right? Just like if you try to explain to a fish what land is like outside the pond, you say, the ground is solid, and then you have trees growing on the ground, and then you have buildings where humans live. All this the fish cannot understand because it hasn't got out of the water. So in the same way, for us to understand Nibbana is very difficult. But we can try to explain a bit because some of these things is beyond words. It can only be experienced. Now, firstly, Nibbana is a state where the sixth consciousness ceases, because the sixth consciousness is the world. And according to some advanced monks, they say that even though the sixth consciousness ceases, the state of Nibbana is pure consciousness, where there is just awareness, but there is no awareness of self. There is no self. And it is a state of great bliss. And this state is a state of also bright consciousness and boundless bright consciousness. Now, to make us understand this state of Nibbana a little bit, we will use a simile to help us understand. When we go to sleep at night, there are two types of sleep we experience. One is a dream state, where we dream. And these dreams sometimes can be frightening dreams, what we call nightmares. So because in that dream state, you are excited over something or you're agitated over something, it is not a very restful state. But there is another state of sleep where you go into a very deep sleep. When you go into this state of very deep sleep, you're not conscious of anything at all. And that state where you're not conscious of anything at all, you're not even conscious of yourself, is very blissful. So blissful that you wake up in the morning, you want to sleep some more. Today is Sunday, I can afford to sleep longer. So, Nibbana can be likened a little to that state, where you are not aware of anything at all, you are not even aware that you exist. And yet, you are conscious. So you oversleep, then your mother comes and wake you up, then you wake up. Otherwise, you are not even aware that you exist. So Nibbana is a little like that. Okay?
Bhante, I often look at the face, is it the Buddhist face says that Sila, Samadhi, Panya, it's Sila, morality, Samadhi is concentration, Panya is wisdom. From what I understand from Bhante's mention, it should be Sila, Samadhi, Jhana, not Sila, Samadhi, Panya.
No. Samadhi is Jhana.
So where does where does the Sila, Samadhi, Panya, where does the Panya derive from after our concentration? Where will we develop the wisdom?
This wisdom is stated in the suttas as being able to see clearly. And when you see clearly, then you understand. And when you understand, then you have wisdom. So, when you cultivate the jhanas, then your mind becomes one-pointed. Your mind becomes very strong. Then you can put it to good use, whatever you want to do with the mind. So, when your samadhi is attained, then wisdom comes naturally. So, for example, you look at a person like Albert Einstein, supposed to be a genius, one of the smartest persons in the world. His samadhi is very good, very excellent. Excellent. That's why we know that when he is given a long mathematical problem, we will have to use calculator to get the answer. He will close his eyes, do all the calculation in his brain, and then after some time he will write the answers down. How can he do that if he didn't have such an excellent concentration? So, you see, like external ascetics, they have, when they have jhanas, then they are also very special people, like Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ also was a great meditator. And he had developed the 4 jhanas. That's why he could walk on water. So he had some psychic power. So when a person has attained the 4 jhanas, he's very near to enlightenment. But why didn't Jesus Christ become enlightened? Only one reason. He did not have the good fortune to listen to the Buddha Dhamma. A person like Jesus Christ, you just have to tell him, let him listen to one sutta, he will become Arahant, enlightened. So some people, they don't understand. They say, oh, a lot of external ascetics, they practice the jhanas, they get the jhanas, they don't become enlightened. Of course they don't become enlightened because they don't have the chance to hear the Dhamma. But when they hear the Dhamma, immediately they become enlightened. We, on the other hand, we don't have jhanas. We listen 1,000 suttas also cannot become enlightened. Yeah? So that's the difference between whether a person has jhana or no jhana. So, in the suttas, the Buddha said, if you make offerings to a person with sila, your merit you will get back something like 100,000 fold, 100,000 times what you gave to a person with sila. But if you give to external ascetic who has no passion, that means a person who has attained the jhanas. Once a person has attained the jhanas, he has no passion. He is not lustful, he is not angry, his mind is very calm. Such a person, if you do dana to him, your merit will be 100,000 times 100,000. So great. So people with jhana, they have wisdom. Only thing is, what type of wisdom they have. If they don't listen to the Dhamma, then they don't have Dhamma wisdom. They have other types of wisdom. But if you give them Dhamma, then they have Dhamma wisdom. Immediately they become enlightened.
Pandey, I have both feeling. Sad because of all the time we practice vipassana. Happy because Pandey pointed out this is a mistake. So now what should I do? We already practice vipassana. We started with vipassana. How should I collect it?
This morning, when I gave a talk in Puchong, I said that to practice the Dhamma, 4 things are very important. First one is dana, charity. Second is sila, keeping the precepts. Third one is studying the suttas. This is a foundation. This is very important, I know there's one lady in Penang who practiced vipassana for 20 over years. And after 20 over years teaching vipassana, she renounced Buddhism. She didn't renounce the home life, she renounced Buddhism. Switched her religion. Why? Shows there's no foundation. This foundation must be based on the Dhamma. Did the Buddha call his disciples yogis? No. The Buddha called all his disciples savakas, hearers, listeners of the Buddha's word. If you listen to the Buddha's word, you are a disciple of the Buddha. If you don't listen to the Buddha's words, you are not a disciple. You might be practicing vipassana meditation. You are not a Buddhist. So it's very important, number 3, to listen to the Buddha's words. And then only you can get right view. Then only you know whether you are practicing the right way or not. And the 4th one is to practice samatha meditation. That's the only meditation taught by the Buddha.
Can I ask another question?
Sure.
This is quite a common question. You see, compare the volume of sutta and the Bible. How can we quantify how many times Bible? This is normally they will ask.
The Bible is about this thick. Our suttas, the first one, Digha Nikaya, is maybe slightly more. And then the Majjhima Nikaya also slightly more than the Digha Nikaya. And then the Samyutta Nikaya about About 3 times the Bible, 2 or 3 times. And the Anguttara Nikaya also the same. The last one, the Khuddaka Nikaya. Khuddaka Nikaya means the small collection or the minor collection, but it has grown to become the biggest collection. So out of the 15 books that Thailand and Sri Lanka recognize, and Burma, they recognize 18 books because in 1956, I think they added another 3 books which are not suttas. So out of those books in the Khuddaka Nikaya, only 6 you can say are reliable because it does not contradict the early suttas. So you take that, say 3 and 3, 6 and 3, 9. About 10 times our original teachings of the Buddha is about 10 times the size of the Bible. And these consist of about 5,000 discourses, 5,000 suttas.
Bante, my question is, all this while I had a lot of this problem with this the story of this Devadatta.
The story of what?
Devadatta.
Devadatta.
Very difficult for me to reconcile the actions of Devadatta and his so-called psychic power and all these things. So I was thinking all this while, if Devadatta had sort of achieved such a highly developed stage of this psychic power, so he must have sort of I think maybe up to 4th jhanas or whatever, isn't it?
Yes.
So you were saying that with 4th jhanas and all this, you get wisdom and you reach the stage of Anagami, Sakadagami, Sotapan, all these things. So, and then only lately I discovered that it's not necessary even when you reach the stage of 4th jhana that you are Sotapang or Anagami. Because if you are Anagami or Sotapang or Sakadagami, you won't commit those sort of hideous act. Isn't it? So you can achieve 4th jhanas, but then you have no wisdom and you are still not even a Sotapang. So I'm quite confused by what you were saying just now.
Just now I said you have to be careful. What type of wisdom are you talking about? There are some people who are very crooked. They are very smart, very smart, but they are smart in the wrong way. So you see, during the Buddha's time, there were a few thousand arahants. Okay, how many of them were like Devadatta? How many Devadattas were there? Only one. Yeah. Out of a few thousand, you have one bad egg. It's not surprising, You see, the Americans, they take so much trouble to make a rocket because they're spending millions and millions of dollars on that rocket. And they want to launch their rocket maybe to go to Mars or Venus or something. And they make it with so many, so many safety features. For example, they make it such that if one circuit fails, then they have backup, maybe another 8 or 9 circuits. In case one fails, you trip to another one. If this one fails, you trip to another. In spite of all that, they make everything so perfect. Sometimes when they launch their rocket, boom, explode. And they get so disappointed, they scratch their head. How come we made it so perfect? So in the same way, the Buddha said, he explains the Dhamma to his disciples. He shows them the way. But it doesn't guarantee that all of them become arahants. He said, why? The Buddha gave a simile. Suppose now, you are from Kajang, okay? Say if you are from Kajang. So I ask you the way to a certain kampung in Kajang. You know the way, yeah? You are very familiar with the way. Then you explain. You go by this road, then you turn left. After a while, you turn right. And then you see this sign, and then you turn here, and then you end up in that kampung, okay? Now, then you ask 10 people. You give them all this direction, you ask them to walk. Will all 10 of them reach that kampung? No, ma. Why? They are all different, ma. Yeah? So the Buddha said, in the same way, I teach the Dhamma, I show them the path so clearly, yeah? And it doesn't mean all of them will reach that Nibbana. So, out of a few thousand Arahants, you only have one Devadatta. I think the success rate is very good already. You see, why does a person like Mara appear? Ask yourself. Mara is in the sixth heaven, above the human, It's in the sensual heavens, the highest sensual heaven, where their blessings is so great, that whatever they wish for, you just think about it, it appears. They want a beautiful girlfriend, just think about it, it appears. They want to eat anything, they think about it, it appears. And such a high Deva, how come he can become a Mara? I seem like this. I say, how come a person cultivates 4 jhanas can become have no wisdom? He has wisdom, but his wisdom is in the wrong direction. This person, Mara, must have been a person who practiced the spiritual path, who meditated, who cultivated maybe ascetic practices, and did sila, practiced sila, dana, everything. So because of such great blessings, that he's born in such a high heaven, even higher than Sakadeva Raja. But he made one mistake. He wasn't careful enough to cut the ego. I'm sure many of you, if you practice Vipassana meditation, I'm sure you know many people practice Vipassana meditation after many years. You think they have wisdom, their ego so big. That's not. Some of them. Why? They're supposed to be practicing wisdom. How come their ego so big? How come their temper so big? But they are supposed to practice wisdom, no wisdom. You know, isn't it? I don't have to tell you, you know very clearly there are many people who practice meditation, ego becomes so big.